Shabbat Shalom,
Shabbat Shalom.
which is peace on Yahweh's holy Sabbath day. Welcome to another holy convocation that Yahweh has enjoined unto us here in Stone Mountain, Georgia. If you guys are not paying attention to any of the things that are going on, it is very evident that we are getting closer and closer to the redemption of the children of Israel. Yahweh is putting things in play from all over the world, not just in the things that are close to us. CNN put on a little special about the Trump thing, and as far as him dealing with the Russians, and he has been dealing with the Russians for a very, very long time. So, and they have communications where they saying we can put our boy in the White House. So, I mean, the Russians have done basically what, America has done to like all of these other smaller countries, which is completely affect their election and put in who they want to be in so that they can, manipulate the situation. And we know that the fall of the daughter of Babylon, which is America, is directly connected to the redemption of the children of Israel. So these things are getting very interesting, even considering when they were trying to create chaos in America. The Russian group even made it look like they joined part of the Black Lives Matter movement to cause even more chaos. So you have Russians pretending to be a part of the Black Lives Matter movement because they know that America are mistreating people of color. So they're using any and everything to cause chaos here, and it worked. Every bit of it worked. I mean, every step along the way, it worked. Everything they tried worked. And this is something that, years back, you talk about something happened like that, something happening to the so-called most powerful country in the world, and people would say, well, how is that going to be possible? There's no way that that's going to happen. And it has happened several times over. Now, the next part of that trick is they got their boy in office, but then they got something on him too. This is where it gets interesting. So what do they have on him that they can now use those things to manipulate him? So this is why you get the one in office that you want, because you can then manipulate his actions by the dirt that you have on him. And if they've already been dealing with him 10, 12 years before, they were compiling information on him long before this thing ever took place. So it's going to get rather interesting as this thing proceeds. But brother, would you read the oracles and entreat the angel that stands at the door to come in and sup with us and us with him, that we may make this a holy convocation by the angel's presence.
1 Peter chapter 4, verses 7 through 11. But the end of all things is at hand. Be you therefore sober, and watch unto prayer. And above all things have fervent love among yourselves, for love shall cover the multitude of sins. Use hospitality one to another without grudging. As every man has received the gift, even so minister the same one to another as good stewards of the manifold grace of Elohim. If any man speak, let him speak as the oracles of Elohim. If any man minister, let him do it as of the ability which Elohim gives, that Elohim in all things may be glorified through Yahshua the Mashiach, to whom be praise and dominion forever and ever. Amen. Ephesians chapter 4, verses 29 through chapter 5 and verse 4. Let no corrupt communication proceed out of your mouth, but that which is good to the use of edifying, that it may minister grace unto the hearers. And grieve not the Holy Spirit of Elohim, whereby you are sealed until the day of redemption. That all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice. And be you kind one to another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as Elohim for Yahshua's sake has forgiven you. Be you therefore followers of Elohim, as their children, and walk in love, as the Mashiach also have loved us, and has given himself for us an offering and sacrifice to Elohim for a sweet-smelling savor. But fornication and all uncleanness or covetousness, let it not be once named among you as becomes saints. Neither filthiness, nor foolish talking, nor jesting, which are not convenient, but rather giving of thanks. Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verses 1 and 2. Keep your foot when you go to the house of Elohim, and be more ready to hear than to give the sacrifice of fools, for they consider not that they do evil. Be not rash with your mouth, and let not your heart be hasty to utter anything before Elohim. For Elohim is in heaven, and you upon earth, therefore let your words be few. Exodus chapter 23, verses 20 and 21. Behold, I send an angel before you, to keep you in the way, and to bring you into the place which I have prepared. Beware of him, and obey his voice. Provoke him not, for he will not pardon your transgressions, for my name is in him. Revelations chapter 3, verses 20 through 22. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man hear my voice and open the door, I will come into him and will sup with him and he with me. To him that overcomes will I grant to sit with me in my throne, even as I have also overcame and am sat down with my Father in his throne. He that has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says unto the churches.
All right, we're going to begin today's sermon in Ezekiel chapter 3. Ezekiel chapter 3, and we're going to start that at verse 1. And today's sermon is entitled The Heresy of the Hireling. And when you deal with what heresies are, there are these, damnable doctrines that are floating about. And the hireling is somebody who is just hired to do a job. The hireling is all about getting his money. The hireling doesn't care for the sheep in that manner. He only cares for the sheep when it comes to the amount of money that he's going to be able to get from dealing with those sheep. And we have those hirelings inside and outside of Israel. We have those hirelings inside and outside of the word. So don't think that when we deal with these hirelings that we're just dealing with, these are, the prosperity preachers. No, we have those in Israel proclaiming to be Israelites all day long, keeping the Sabbath and still just as much a hireling as the prosperity preachers. So let's not limit that to that situation. We have a seat right now, sister. Ezekiel chapter 3, and let's start that at verse 1.
Moreover, he said unto me, Son of man, eat that you findeth, eat this roll, and go speak unto the house of Israel. So I opened my mouth, and he caused me to eat that roll. And he said unto me, Son of man, cause your belly to eat, and fill your bowels with this roll that I give you. Then did I eat it, and it was in my mouth as honey for sweetness.
Right. When we first hear the word is good unto us. We are amazed at the things that we find out unto this word. So it is in our belly is sweetness. Go ahead.
And he said unto me, Son of man, go, get you unto the house of Israel, and speak with my words unto them. For you are not sent to a people of a strange speech and of an hard language, but to the house of Israel. Not to many people of a strange speech and of an hard language, whose words you cannot understand. Surely, had I sent you to them, they would have hearkened unto you.
So Yahweh says, if I had sent you unto the other nations, if I had sent you to the Gentiles, they would have been heard you by now. But I've been sending you to my people Israel. And it's not like they don't understand the language. You're not speaking a different language. No, they just have their heart and their mind set on what it is they want to do. Go ahead.
Verse 7. But the house of Israel will not hearken unto you, for they will not hearken unto me. For all the house of Israel are impudent and hard-hearted. Behold, I have made your face strong against their faces, and your foreheads strong against their foreheads. As an adamant harder than flint have I made your forehead. Fear them not, neither be dismayed at their looks, though they be a rebellious house. I heard also the noise of the wings of the living creatures that touched one another, and the noise of the wheels over against them. I skipped. All right. Verse 9. As an adamant harder than flint have I made your forehead. Fear them not, neither be dismayed at their looks, though they be a rebellious house.
That's the way this book jumped right there. Yeah, it jumped from 9. I see how you got over there. Because I was over there too. What just happened here? Felt like Chris Tucker in that movie. Which one of y'all hit me? I don't know what happened. Go ahead.
Ezekiel chapter 3 and verse 10. Moreover, he said unto me, Son of man, all my words that I shall speak unto you receive in your heart, and hear with your ears. And go, get you to them of the captivity, unto the children of your people, and speak unto them, and tell them, Thus said Yahweh Elohim, whether they will hear or whether they will forbear. Then the Spirit took me up, and I heard behind me a voice of a great rushing, saying, Blessed be the glory of Yahweh from this place. I heard also the noise of the wings of the living creatures that touch one another, and the noise of the wheels over against them, and a noise of a great rushing. So the Spirit lifted me up and took me away, and I went in bitterness in the heat of my spirit. But the hand of Yahweh was strong upon me. Then I came to them of the captivity at Tel Abib, that dwelt by the river Chebar, and I sat where they sat, and remained there astonished among them 7 days. And it came to pass at the end of 7 days that the word of Yahweh came unto me, saying, Son of man, I have made you a watchman unto the house of Israel. Therefore hear the word at my mouth, and give them warning from me.
Right. So once you get to this point of being this watchman, the watchman can't keep his mouth closed. The watchman can't stand there and watch heresy go on and say absolutely nothing about it. The watchman cannot hear false doctrine and smile at that false doctrine. Go ahead.
Verse 18. When I say unto the wicked, you shall surely die, and you give him not warning, nor speaketh to warn the wicked from his wicked way to save his life, the same wicked man shall die in his lawlessness, but his blood will I require at your hand.
So it's going to be a situation where it may be uncomfortable for you to say these things. This is why he says, I'm going to require that blood at your hand. So a lot of times we worry about what's comfortable. So, it's kind of uncomfortable for me to say such and such. Well, understand that you got blood on your hands by wondering about your comfort level. Go ahead.
Yet if you warn the wicked, and he turn not from his wickedness, nor from his wicked way, he shall die in his lawlessness. But you have delivered your soul.
There you go. Your salvation does not depend on whether or not the people hear you and adhere to the things that you say. Your salvation depends on whether or not you say what you're supposed to say. It's not your responsibility to make sure they walk right. Just your responsibility to make sure that you've said it. So as I'm a watchman to this place, you consider what you are to the people outside this door who have not heard the word, who do not know the word. Go ahead.
Verse 20. Again, when a righteous man does turn from his righteousness and commit lawlessness, and I lay a stumbling block before him, he shall die. Because you have not given him warning. He shall die in his sin, and his righteousness which he has done shall not be remembered, but his blood will I require at your hand.
Right. His righteousness which he has done, and he may have done a whole lot of righteousness. But in the day that he turns from that righteousness and starts to do lawlessness, all of the righteous deeds that were done before shall not be remembered. Why? Because he burnt those up. This is why you have to keep working, because you don't know how many times you done set your works on fire. And we love to count some stuff that we did in 1984. Back then I did a real good deed. I helped this old lady across the street. Yeah, well, you burnt that up when you shot the guy over there. So whatever that good deed is that you did before, that one already burnt up. That was it. You didn't see the smoke behind you. That was gone. Go ahead.
Nevertheless, if you warn the righteous man that the righteous man sin not, and he does not sin, he shall surely live, because he is warned. Also, you have delivered your soul.
You have delivered your soul in warning him. You do not have to make sure that they follow in that way. This is why those brothers be out on the corner cussing everybody out, because they feel like they have failed if that person does not automatically adhere to that doctrine that they're telling them right at that point. So you have to understand that that's not your responsibility. That's why those people get so upset, because their leaders have told them you have failed. Because that person didn't change their entire life by one conversation. You need to know that's not your job. Go ahead.
And the hand of Yahweh was there upon me, and he said unto me, Arise, go forth into the plain, and I will there talk with you. Then I arose and went forth into the plain, and, behold, the glory of Yahweh stood there, as the glory which I saw by the river of Chebar, and I fell on my face. Then the Spirit entered into me, and set me upon my feet, and spake with me. And he said unto me, Go, shut yourselves within your house. But you, O son of man, behold, they shall put bands upon you, and shall bind you with them, and you shall not go out among them. And I'll make your tongue cleave to the roof of your mouth, and you shall be dumb, and shall not be to them a reprover, for they are a rebellious house. But when I speak with you, I will open your mouth, and you shall say unto them, Thus said the Adonai Yah, He that hears, let him hear, and he that forbears, let him forbear, for they are a rebellious house.
Right. So everybody will have the opportunity to either hear or rebel, and let every man go ahead and make his decision on what it is he's going to do. Let's go to Ezekiel chapter 34. See, there's some people that have already made up their mind what manner of people they're going to be before you have even opened your mouth. So it doesn't matter what what you say to them. They have already agreed within their own heart, mind, and spirit what they're going to be about. And ain't nothing you're going to do about that. And you need to know it's not your job to change them. But you go ahead and speak that word, and upon the day of visitation, then that final decision will be made. Ezekiel 34, and let's start that at verse 1.
And the word of Yahweh came unto me, saying, Son of man, prophesy against the shepherds of Israel. Prophesy, and say unto them, Thus said the Adonai Yah unto the shepherds, Woe be to the shepherds of Israel that do feed themselves. Should not the shepherds feed the flocks?
Right, and these are things that we gravitate to the shepherds that feed themselves, that take all of the money of the children of Israel and make sure that they live in luxury. Now, you have this on several levels. You have feeding the flock when it comes to financial things, and then you have feeding the flock when it comes to the word. When they give you one or two verses and then sell you the DVD after that for $35, $45, they're not feeding the flock. You can't even get the rest of the message without paying some more money. Go ahead.
You eat the fat, and you clothe you with wool. You kill them that are fed, but you feed not the flock. The diseased have you not strengthened, neither have you healed that which was sick, neither have you bound up that which was broken, neither have you brought again that which was driven away, neither have you sought that which was lost, but with force and with cruelty have you ruled them.
Right. It's cruel when you end up telling people if they don't tithe, they should be lined up and shot with a Uzi. It's cruel when you tell people that, hey, Satan is the one that's trying to get you to keep the law. It's cruel when somebody says, oh, anybody who's trying to keep a dietary law must be in a cult. See, you got these folks that want to dance on both sides of the line. So this Hebrew Christian thing is getting pretty big because people are finding out about this Hebrew culture. So then you have these Christian organizations that want to do half Christendom so they can get the money, and then have Hebrew Israelite culture so they can claim that too. So you have whole organizations that are walking with 1 foot in the word and then 1 foot outside of the word. So they'll still use, a lot of them still use the name Jesus because they know that's where the money comes in at. Some of them will congregate on the Sabbath. Some of them will have an optional Sabbath. Some of them will keep the holy day. So they just jump in and out of certain things as they see fit. And you understand why that one guy was saying if you keep any dietary law, you must be in a cult. Because see, he from Louisiana. You know, they eat any damn thing in Louisiana. They'll just catch a possum and throw some barbecue sauce right on it, won't even cook him. Just like damn, you ain't gonna cook that? You're gonna catch it just fur and all. Just catch a raccoon or whatever. Then clip the tail on the back of the hat. You know, just keep on going. When they talk about that abominable broth, see, people don't know you can have gumbo without all of that stuff in it. We have it here. Kosher gumbo. You don't have to make gumbo with all that mess in it. But once they get accustomed to that, they think that that's the only way that they can do it. So they don't want to fight that lifestyle. They want to continue to do the things that they did before in the word. So now they got to make an excuse of, hey, you're in a cult if you're trying to, not let us eat this gumbo. There's something wrong with you. Right. Go ahead, bro.
Ezekiel chapter 34 and verse 5. And they were scattered because there is no shepherd, and they became meat to all the beasts of the field when they were scattered.
Right. You have a whole lot of people now that won't even go to church organizations because you have brothers that sit by and they look and they say, man, this a hustle. You have brothers that say, man, I done been in the street before, man. I know a hustle when I see one. So now the sheep are scattered. You got a whole lot of brothers that won't even go to any kind of church because they've seen the hustle. Go ahead.
My sheep wanders through all the mountains and upon every high hill. Yes, my flock was scattered upon all the face of the earth, and none did search or seek after them.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, you shepherds, hear the word of Yah.
Right.
As I live, said the Adonai Yah, surely because my flock became a prey, and my flock became meat to every beast of the field, because there was no shepherd, neither did my shepherds search for my flock, but the shepherds fed themselves, and fed not my flock. Therefore, O you shepherds, hear the word of Yah. Thus said the Adonai Yah, behold, I am against the shepherds, and I will require my flock at their hand.
I will require my flock at their hand. So all of these people that are sitting there getting as much money as they can, and they're fleecing the flock, Yahweh is still going to deal with those people because they have allowed themselves to be misled. But he's going to require their blood at the hand of that shepherd that led them. Go ahead.
And cause them to cease from feeding the flock. Neither shall the shepherds feed themselves any more, for I will deliver my flock from their mouth, that they may not be meat for them.
Right. He said, I'm going to deliver my flock from their mouth. So they're eating on the people. They're devouring the people. Go ahead.
For thus said the Adonai Yah, behold, I, even I, will both search my sheep and seek them out, as a shepherd seeks out his flock in the day that he is among his sheep that are scattered.
This is why you've heard the word. For Yahweh has started to search out and seek after his flock. So then it got to a point where you start hearing certain words. All of a sudden, certain things are piercing your spirit. Even as people sat in the midst of Sunday church, they would sit there and feel some things, not understand that's Yahweh searching you out. See, it's not given to one particular person or whoever it was that talked to you, that brought you the word. It was Yahweh that was putting that thing in your spirit, that certain things you would begin to hear, and it just, something would seem like it wasn't quite right. He's searching out his sheep. Go ahead.
So will I seek out my sheep, and will deliver them out of all places where they have been scattered in the cloudy and dark day. And I'll bring them out from the people, and gather them from the countries, and will bring them to their own land, and feed them upon the mountains of Israel by the rivers, and in all the inhabited places of the country.
Right. The heresy that the hireling has given us is that we're all going to go to heaven. So then we don't look for Yahweh's doctrine, which is every man is supposed to have peace in his own land. So we don't look to return anywhere. The majority of our people are going to church on the Son's day, looking forward to one day dying and going to heaven. So that means that you can't have any redemption while you live. Your only hope is to die. So why you think our young youth act the way they act? Their only hope is in death. See, this is what happens when you have a doctrine that the only time you can ever enter into paradise is to be dead. Then you got these young dudes, and they care absolutely nothing about life. Go ahead.
Verse 14. I will feed them in a good pasture, and upon the high mountains of Israel shall their fold be. There shall they lie in a good fold, and in a fat pasture shall they feed upon the mountains of Israel. I will feed my flock, and I will cause them to lie down, said the Adonai. I will seek that which was lost, and bring again that which was driven away, and will bind up that which was broken, and will strengthen that which was sick. But I will destroy the fat and the strong. I will feed.
But we have been conditioned to look down upon anybody who smoke marijuana or deal with it. We think those are the drug dealers. No. Your drug dealer got a big neon sign in front of his building. That's where the real drugs at. That's why people starting to break in them and try to steal them drugs out of there. Now everything's blooming. We getting ready to go get some Claritin. I got to sign away my whole life up at the register. They like, well, let me see your license. Give me your information. Take your shoe off and put your toe up here. What the hell? I just need some Claritin, man. Have you ever been here before? No. You're not in the database? No. Well, you got to get in the database. For what? Because you want the Claritin D. What? Right. That's what happened when that drug epidemic make it to the other side of town. Go ahead.
Ezekiel chapter 34 and verse 17. And as for you, O my flock, thus said the Adonai, behold, I judge between cattle and cattle, between the rams and the he-goats. Seemeth it a small thing unto you to have eaten up the good pasture? But you must tread down with your feet the residue of your pastures, and to have drunken of the deep waters, but you must foul the residue with your feet. And as for my flock, they eat that which you have trodden with your feet, and they drink that which you have fouled with your feet.
Right. All of the stuff that they have tainted, we get the leftover, which is what has been happening from the beginning. That's the whole part of so-called living high on the hog and low on the hog. The low parts of the hog were the parts that were supposed to be undesirable. Those were the parts that they threw over to the fence to the slaves. The high parts of the pig were supposed to be the good parts that master and his folks ate. But we know that there are no good parts of a hog. Every part of it is horrible because it's not meant to be eaten. But what people do is they take parts out of this book where it says every creature is accepted if it was created for Elohim and it's good and nothing to be refused. It's good for the purpose in which it was created for. And that's the thing that people don't understand. Everything was not created to be eaten. It was created to make sure that the ecosystem goes in this complete circle and refuels itself. I mean, how many people have eaten a honeybee? You ever ate a bee? Even sound disgusting, huh? But I tell you what, Take the bees out the ecosystem and see what happens to you. We don't eat them. But I tell you what, erase the bee. Take the bee out of this whole situation and see what happens. See what kind of problems we're going to have without them bees. But we don't eat them. But they're good for the purpose in which they were created. Yet, you got some pastor out there saying if you eat according to the biblical law, you are in a cult. Right. Heresy. But see, we like that heresy because it let us do the things that we want to do. Go ahead.
Verse 20. Therefore thus said the Adonai unto them, Behold, I, even I, will judge between the fat cattle and between the lean cattle, because you have thrust with the side and with the shoulder, and pushed all the diseased with your horns, till you have scattered them abroad. Therefore will I save my flock, and they shall no more be a prey. And I'll judge between cattle and cattle. And I'll set up one shepherd over them, and he shall feed them, even my servant Dawid. He shall feed them, and he shall be their shepherd.
Now, for this reason, you got a whole lot of people out running around talking about they Dawid reincarnated. You got people walking around claiming to be all kind of things. You got one brother talking about he the comforter, and just all kind of. Well, you got a couple of brothers walking around saying they the comforter. A lot of people want to be the comforter, but you got a few saying that they King David. You know, don't have any kind of army war experience. Can't lead nobody out to the parking lot, but somehow they still King David reincarnated. King David's a warrior. Go ahead.
Verse 24. And I, Yahweh, will be their Elohim, and my servant Dawid a prince among them. I, Yahweh, have spoken it. And I'll make with them a covenant of peace, and will cause the evil beast to cease out of the land, and they shall dwell safely in the wilderness and sleep in the woods.
Had a brother come up here last week, show up in a full Egyptian, I don't know what kind of outfit that was, and just started saying, this is how you judge the spirit by the spirit. Started saying things like, saying, we are in the wilderness now, you know. Said, well, if that's the case, we've been in the wilderness for almost 400 years. So that don't fit what's in this book. But Yahweh said he's going to judge, and he makes a difference between Egypt and Israel. And there was some interesting things that were brought forth last week when this brother showed up that we're going to get into. Go ahead, brother.
And I'll make them and the places round about my hill a blessing, and I'll cause the shower to come down in his season. There shall be showers of blessings. And the tree of the field shall yield her fruit, and the earth shall yield her increase, and they shall be safe in their land, and shall know that I am Yahweh.
They shall be safe in their land. It's not hard for us to figure out that this land is not ours, but if you start listening to some of them Egyptologist brothers, now they'll tell you that this land is really ours, you know, because see, we was here before anybody else, you see. See, we're the one put the feather in the Indian head. We did that. Right. So one of them twisted doctrines video we was looking at, Leah, one of the brothers said, see, the Indians are Israelites. Because, see, they say, hey, hey. My IQ immediately went down after watching it. I said, man, I feel exceptionally stupid right now. I feel dumber and dumber the more this I watch. Go ahead, man.
When I have broken the bands of their yoke, and delivered them out of the hand of those that serve themselves of them.
Right, and we have been serving the nations, and even as Christians, it wasn't hard for us to see that we were second-class Christians. It wasn't hard for us to figure that out. It was handed to us that way. Go ahead.
And they shall no more be a prey to the heathen, neither shall the beast of the land devour them, but they shall dwell safely, and none shall make them afraid. And I'll raise up for them a plant of renown, and they shall be no more consumed with hunger in the land, neither bear the shame of the heathen any more. Thus shall they know that I, Yahweh their Elohim, am with them, and that they, even the house of Israel, are my people, says the Adonai Yah.
Now, he's going to have to reveal this unto the nations, because the nations have been shown by the imposters that we are a sick and degenerate people. We are all the ones that you see on television. When you turn on the 6 o'clock news, all you see is us. That is design. And we like to say, man, look at these white folks showing us such and such. But we don't consider that's Jewish controlled media. Who you think telling them to put that out? Who you think telling them that this is what we want to portray this people as? See, a lot of us didn't notice right when they do Black History Month. Have you noticed a whole lot of Jewish programs come out too? See, y'all don't notice. Why is it like that? To make sure y'all don't get no more sympathy now. We need this sympathy because they feed off sympathy. This is how they keep getting rich. Every time they had to tell you, remember now, we went through the Holocaust. Remember the Holocaust. Remember the Holocaust. Remember. Remember, they just don't, anything, they have to keep going. And anytime people start talking about the struggle that our people have gone through, automatically, they run that in parallel with their thing. Soon as the shooting happened in Carolina, the church shooting, all of a sudden Jewish synagogues were getting these threatening letters. Then they found out it was a Jewish guy doing it, and you never seen it again on TV. It disappeared. Why did it disappear? They in control of the news media. They said, all right, well, that don't show us in a good light. Don't air that no more. And every channel, boom, cut it off. But they were talking about it all the time until it was discovered that it was a Jewish person that was sending the fake letters to all the synagogues. Right. Go ahead.
And you, my flock, the flock of my pasture, are men, and I am your Elohim, said the Adonai Yah.
All right, let's go to John chapter 10. Yohanan chapter 10. And we're going to start with verses 1 through 8.
Yohanan chapter 10 and verse 1. Verily, verily, I say unto you, he that enters not by the door into the sheepfold, but climbs up some other way, the same is a thief and a robber. But he that enters in by the door is the shepherd of the sheep. To him the porter opens, and the sheep hear his voice. And he calls his own sheep by name and leads them out.
Right. To him the porter opens, and the sheep hear his voice. That's what you heard. You heard the voice of Yahweh when you start hearing bits and pieces of the word and say, wait a minute, something is different here. Something is different than what I've heard and what I've grown up on. See, his sheep hear his voice. His sheep hear his doctrine. And then when that starts to become a strange doctrine, the sheep start to rebel. Wait a minute now, this right here don't sound right. Go ahead.
And when he puts forth his own sheep, he goes before them, and the sheep follow him, for they know his voice.
Right. The sheep follow him. They know that doctrine. They hear it. Okay, this right here is piercing my spirit. I'm going to follow this. Go ahead.
And a stranger will they not follow, but will flee from him, for they know not the voice of strangers.
They don't know that strange doctrine. And this is how sheep act naturally. You know that, right? Sheep can't really see that good, but they can hear. And once they get accustomed to the voice of the shepherd, when they hear the shepherd and he keeps talking, they come follow him. I was at a farm and watched the guy do it. He started talking, and all the sheep came from the other side, and they all came over where he was. They know his voice. Other people can stand out there and talk. They can talk all day long. When the one who took care of them came out and started talking, they all came to him. Go ahead.
This parable spake Yahshua unto them, but they understood not what things they were which he spake unto them. Then said Yahshua unto them again, Verily, verily, I say unto you, I am the door of the sheep. All that ever came before me are thieves and robbers, but the sheep did not hear them. I am the door. By me, if any man enters in, he shall be saved, and shall go in and out, and find pasture.
Right. So then the adversary, the devil, has to make sure that you don't come in the correct way. According to this word, there's only one name under heaven by which we must be saved. So the adversary, the devil, said, well, look, I got to jump into that. Let them get baptized in the wrong name so they don't come through the door. Go ahead.
The thief comes not, but for to steal, and to kill, and to destroy. I am come that they might have life, and that they might have it more abundantly.
Right. And the hireling has turned that into monetary gain. See, if you live in life more abundantly, then you must be rich. And you have to look at this prosperity doctrine works more on our people than any other people. See, Gentiles have had money for a while. See, there's a difference between old money and new money. See, because that prosperity doctrine worked better on poor people than it do on rich people. See, it worked better on people who trying to be rich, not people who are already rich. So you come talking that prosperity doctrine to Gentiles who've been rich for 4 or 5 generations, they like, well, I'm already prosperous. What you talking about? I don't really need that. But see, they get rich taking that same doctrine into, think about where the churches are, where the richest pastors are. The neighborhood's poor. So they go into a poor neighborhood, talk to poor people about prosperity, but they're the only ones who become prosperous. Quite a trick, ain't it? Because poor people will give you all their money in hopes to become rich. Who spend the most money on lotto tickets? The folk who ain't got a bit of money. I can't even get my pink grapefruit juice at the store because the line is hanging out the door with folks trying to play lotto. And you look at them like, you should have bought some more socks before you. And I'm talking about they spending a gang of money trying to hit the lotto. And they in the line dreaming. Oh, I'm going to get that Cadillac, that one to lift up and take off like that. And I'm like, man, I just need that pink grapefruit juice. That's all I'm trying to get out of it. I just need that pink grapefruit juice so I can be on my way. But I got to sit here and stand in this line, listen to everybody dream about the lotto. I ain't saying nothing wrong with it. That's what you want to do. But man, we going, and I'm talking about spending, and the lotto used to be $1. They done doubled it now to $2. Boy, they making a killing in this thing. And who you see in there, it is filled with us and poor people dreaming. During the Depression, the most popular show was the stories. Why? Because they dreamed about everybody being rich. So all these people are poor and hungry during the Depression. The stories was mega popular because it gave them the opportunity to dream about being rich. And this is what this prosperity doctrine does. Our people see the pastor show up in a Rolls Royce and we dream one day that's going to be me. Not really. Go ahead.
Verse 11. I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd gives his life for the sheep.
Right. The good shepherd put himself in harm's way to protect the sheep. So he don't just let any old kind of doctrine come in and harm no sheep. This is why Yahshua came in, turned over tables, said my father's house is not a place of merchandise. This is why he went at the Pharisees and told them, you a bunch of hypocrites. Because he puts himself in danger for the sheep. Go ahead.
But he that is an hireling, and not the shepherd, whose own the sheep are not, sees the wolf coming, and leaves the sheep and flees, and the wolf catches them and scatters the sheep.
See, the hireling don't really care for the sheep because the hireling just there to get paid. So he not going to put himself in no harm's way. They sat there and say, about the little school shooting. If they had armed people at the schools, that would help. They had an armed officer, and he went and hid behind a wall or hid behind somewhere. And he said, I thought they were firecrackers. See, so then I had called, the real police. And then I told them, I'ma just hold it behind this wall until y'all get here. Right. Well, y'all had a man there with a gun. He ain't doing that. No. Because, see, that boy had a real gun. That boy had one of them assault rifles. See, when you pull out your little pow, and the other thing going, and here you go, pow. No, you better put that little pow down. So, he didn't run out of that. Right. Go ahead, bro.
Verse 13. The hireling flees because he's an hireling and cares not for the sheep.
Mm-hmm.
I am the good shepherd and know my sheep, and I am known of mine.
Now, the teachers would have probably did more than the officer because they were more connected to those kids than the officer was. Go ahead.
As the Father knows me, even so know I the Father, and I lay down my life for the sheep. And other sheep I have, which are not of this fold.
Right. So that has to be said for all the people who believe that their church is the only place where you can get salvation. He says, other sheep I have that are not of this fold. So just because you don't see certain people in this room, don't mean that they're not going to attain this, be able to attain unto their salvation. So anybody that teach that little twisted doctrine, there's something wrong with them. You don't know all the sheep of his fold. You had something, bro?
Like verse 11 says, he gives his life for his sheep.
Mm-hmm.
Like that gym teacher that was connected to all them kids. He gave his life.
Right.
When cops outside hired.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's interesting how that goes. But it's in those situations that you then end up finding out what people are truly made of. And where their loyalty lies. And Yahweh will allow things to happen unto us so that we can show where we are. Remember, he says, I'm not going to take all of these other nations away from Israel. I'm going to lead these nations among you so I can prove Israel by these other nations, because I'm going to see if you're going to follow my law or not. So I'm going to lead these Canaanites, these Perizzites, I'm going to leave them among you, and I'm going to see what you're going to do. And we have that thing where we like to, we see the other nations, they start doing something, we gonna outdo their dirtiness. You gonna be dirty? Well, I'm gonna be filthy then. Right. Go ahead.
Them also must I bring, and they shall hear my voice. And there shall be one fold and one shepherd.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore does my Father love me, because I lay down my life, that I might take it again. No man takes it from me, but I lay it down of myself. I have power to lay it down, and I have power to take it again.
All right, let's go to Malachi chapter 4. Now, the Egyptian that showed up here last week, and I mean, I know the people. I'm really sorry for people who, because we have members that are real live members of this congregation, and they're, on the internet, and I know, y'all don't have a visual to go with this, but it was a very strange situation as far as, this thing. You're going to encounter this in the word where people make very, large claims about who they are. And the brother says that he was the third Elijah, is what his claim was when he came in here, and he was completely dressed in Egyptian garb with the little candy cane circle things on the head, and draped down. So automatically I was confused whether you Pharaoh or Elijah, because I don't think Elijah came out of Egypt. You know what I'm saying? So I'm already confused with that. But then he says, didn't the word say, I will call my son out of Egypt? I said, brother, you taking scriptures and just throwing them in a blender, and just, you throwing some things. So we're going to go over some things here. But like we just read, it says that the sheep will not follow the strange voice or the doctrine of a different shepherd. It was a sister that came back there and got me out of my office and said, Priest Esaac, you need to come out here. It's another doctrine being taught out here. I said, thank you, sweet. Go ahead, brother. Malachi chapter 4, and let's read verses 4 through 6.
Remember you the law of Moshe my servant, which I commanded unto him in Horeb for all Yisrael, with the statutes and judgments. Behold, I will send you Elijah the prophet before the coming of the great and dreadful day of Yahweh.
Now, what you have to pay attention to is the great and dreadful day of Yahweh. And because people don't know about the time frame in between events, there then is automatically this thing that, okay, there must be another Elijah that must come. But read what it says Elijah is supposed to do.
And he shall turn the heart of the fathers to the children, and the heart of the children to their fathers, lest I come and smite the earth with a curse.
Okay, now, while we were there last week, the brother tried to get one of these brothers to open up the book and read this part. This is what the brother was trying to get you to read. And the reason I said no, man, you came in here an hour late without a book. The brother in the front asked him, you need a Bible? No, I got it up here. So when the brother said read Malachi 4, I'm like, hell no, read it yourself. Close the book. Tell me what it say. Hell, you came in here, you said you didn't need no book. So why in the hell he wanted your book to read? See, you got to call out. Don't let that kind of stuff pass. No. You came in, you said you didn't need now. I'm gonna need you to go ahead and read without one. Because that's how you came in this door. You said you didn't need no book. Sister got up after class and said, how did you hear about us? Brother said, Yahweh. Okay, so Yahweh talked to you and told you, go see son. Later on, brother said he was on the internet. Now, why the hell you didn't say that when the sister asked you that? You see what I'm saying? See, you got to learn to call out some things. That's all you had to say. I looked at a class on the internet, but no, Yahweh told you. Oh, okay. Right. So, this is what Elijah is supposed to do. Let's go to Luke chapter 1. Because if y'all think that's something, y'all ain't seen nothing yet. I used to go to church with a brother who couldn't even tell you where his keys was. And later on, he became the comforter. Now, how in the hell you turn into the comforter? Got people to sell all their property, moved out of state, and we told them he was a cuckoo from day one. But they didn't want to listen. But when they got up there, and then he was like, let me introduce you to the spirit, to the comforter. Huh? Huh? What? But they done sold all their stuff now. They done moved all out of town. Right. Luke chapter 1, and let's read verses 5 through 20.
There was in the days of Herod, the king of Yehuda, a certain priest named Zacharias, of the course of Abiah.
Now, a certain priest named Zacharias. So understand, when you're dealing with Yohanan the Baptist, he had a very respectful lineage. His father was of the priesthood. So this wasn't just like no regular dude like that. So he has much respect from the beginning. Go ahead.
And his wife was of the daughters of Aaron, and her name was Elizabeth.
She was of the daughters of Aaron. Now, priesthood man, woman, the daughters of the priesthood. Understand what Yahweh is doing here. This man has more respect than Christ had in the beginning. Go ahead.
And they were both righteous before Elohim, walking in all the commandments and ordinance of the Adonai blameless.
Now, this is something you're going to have to have ready when you run into them kleptites who say that you just, you got your righteousness is inside. Wait a minute. When you talk to them people that go to klepto church, it says they were both righteous. All right? Now keep reading. How were they righteous? They walked in all the commandments and ordinances. That's what righteousness is. What they want to tell you is, see, your body's sin, but see, inside you are righteous. See, that's heresy. That is a false doctrine. Go ahead.
Verse 7. And they had no child, because that Elizabeth was barren, and they both were now well stricken in years.
Right, so they had no children. She was barren, but it had nothing to do with anything physically or spiritually that she had done. She was not able to have kids because of something that Yahweh wanted from them. And in the time that Yahweh wanted it from them. It had absolutely nothing to do with her or him. Go ahead.
And it came to pass that while he executed the priest's office before Elohim in the order of his course, according to the custom of the priest's office, his lot was to burn incense when he went into the temple of the Adonai.
Right. Same thing that we did before everybody got here. Go ahead.
And the whole multitude of the people were praying without at the time of incense.
So while the incense was burning, the people were outside. Same thing we just did here. Go ahead.
And there appeared unto him an angel of Yahweh standing on the right side of the altar of incense.
Now, this scared the mess out of him because he was supposed to be in here by himself. He burning the incense. He look up and somebody standing there. Ain't nobody supposed to be in there. Now he wondering if he done failed. Did I not clear everybody out of here? When I did this, oh man, I'm in trouble. Yahweh gonna get me. Go ahead.
And when Zacharias saw him, he was troubled, and fear fell upon him. But the angel said unto him, Fear not, Zacharias, for your prayer is heard. And your wife Elizabeth shall bear you a son, and you shall call his name Johanan.
Now, they were well stricken in years, and she was barren. And now the angel comes and said, your prayer is heard. You have any idea how long he had to pray that prayer? There ain't many 70-year-old people walking around talking about, I can't wait to have me a child. Oh, God, please give me a child. They don't stop praying their prayer because at that time, they don't even think their prayer going to get answered. But see, your timing and Yahweh timing ain't got nothing to do with each other. See, Yahweh has this for his purpose and his timing. So he said, now I've heard your prayer. What prayer? You know that one you said, you said it was in a bib. A bib when? Oh, 40 years ago a bib. What? You now answering a 40-year-old prayer? Yeah, I'm just on time. I'm right on time. Go ahead.
And you shall have joy and gladness, and many shall rejoice at his birth. For he shall be great in the sight of the Adonai, and shall drink neither wine nor strong drink, and he shall be filled with the Holy Spirit, even from his mother's womb.
See, this was not the case with the Mashiach. As it says, the Mashiach drunk wine and everything. This man right here was a totally different kind of man. Go ahead.
And many of the children of Israel shall he turn to the Adonai their Elohim.
Now, this was told his father. All right? This is what the prophecy was about Elijah. He would turn the hearts of the fathers to the children and vice versa. This is what the angel is giving to him about his son. Go ahead.
And he shall go before them, and he shall go before him in the spirit and power of Elias, to turn the hearts of the fathers to the children, and the disobedient to the wisdom of the just, to make ready a people prepared for the Adonai. And Zacharias said unto the angel, Whereby shall I know this? For I am an old man, and my wife well stricken in years.
I'm an old man. My wife is well stricken in years. How is this going to happen? Go ahead.
And the angel answering said unto him, I am Gabriel, that stand in the presence of Elohim, and am sent to speak unto you, and to show you these glad tidings.
Right.
And behold, you shall be dumb, and not be able to speak until the day that these things shall be performed, because you believe not my words, which shall be fulfilled in their season.
Right. He asked one too many questions. See, and we'll open our mouth and let anything fly out of it. One too many questions, and now he can't talk at all. and didn't get his voice back until they had to get into an altercation about what the boy name was gonna be. He go ahead and writes the name on the tablet, then he can talk again. See, you can let that mouth run and let it run you right into a situation. But see, this man was of the priesthood. There's certain things after dealing for a little while that Yahweh expect of us. This was an elder in the church. And then he decided that he was going to ask Yahweh, well, how I know this going to happen? I tell you what. You like to talk. You ain't going to talk no more until the child get here. Now say something else. I took care of that business right there. Go ahead, bro. That was the end of that. Let's go to Luke chapter 15. No, Matthew 17. Matthew 17, and let's read verses 1 through 13.
Verse 1. And after 6 days, Yahshua takes Cephas, Jacob, and Johanan his brother, and brings them up into an high mountain apart.
Now, we read this last week, and it was very interesting that as we read this, the brothers show up and say that he is Elias. Man, we've had some strange things happen where we'll read something and then somebody, end up showing up from the things that we are reading, and it's rather strange up in here. But when this brother ended up saying that he was Elias, it was yeah. Go ahead, brother. We're gonna get there. Go ahead.
And was transfigured before them.
Mm-hmm.
And his face did shine as the sun, and his raiment was white as the light. And behold, there appeared unto them Moshe and Elias talking with him.
Right. So now we're talking about this Mount of Transfiguration. We're talking about them being in heaven. So we see Moshe and Elias. Go ahead.
Then answered Cephas and said unto Yahshua, Adonai, it is good for us to be here. If you will, let us make here 3 tabernacles, one for you, one for Moshe, and one for Elias. While he yet spake, behold, a bright cloud overshadowed them. And behold, a voice out of the cloud, which said, This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased.
Mm-hmm.
Hear you him. And when the disciples heard it, they fell on their face, and were sore afraid. And Yahshua came and touched them, and said, Arise and be not afraid. And when they had lifted up their eyes, they saw no man, save Yahshua only. And as they came down from the mountain, Yahshua charged them, saying, Tell the vision to no man, until the Son of Man be risen again from the dead. And his disciples asked him, saying, Why then say the scribes that Elias must first come?
Mm-hmm.
And Yahshua answered and said unto them, Elias truly shall first come and restore all things.
All right. So the writing in Malachi 4 that the brother was trying to get somebody to read out of their Bible, it said that Elijah was going to turn, the hearts of the fathers to the children and vice versa. Go ahead.
But I say unto you that Elias is come already,
Mm-hmm.
and they knew him not,
Mm-hmm.
but have done unto him whatsoever they listed. Likewise shall also the Son of Man suffer of them. Then the disciples understood that he spake unto them of Johanan the Baptist.
So then they understood that Johanan the Baptist came in the spirit of Elijah. This is the job that he performed. Let's go to Johanan chapter 1. Johanan chapter 1, and let's start that at verse 1.
In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with Elohim, and the Word was Elohim.
As it is written, let us make man in our image. So, Yahweh's son, Israel, created the earth, and we were named after his son, Israel. That's why we are called Israelites and not Yahwehites. Go ahead.
The same was in the beginning with Elohim. All things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. And the light shines in darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not. There was a man sent from Elohim, whose name was Johanan. The same came for a witness, to bear witness of the light, that all men through him might believe. He was not that light, but was sent to bear witness of that light. That was the true light, which lights every man that comes into the world. He was in the world, and the world was made by him, and the world knew him not. He came unto his own, and his own received him not. But as many as received him, to them gave he power to become the sons of Elohim, even to them that believe on his name.
Right. And it is a very big push outside in Christendom and outside of even these Hebrew Christian organizations. They are adamant about using the false name of Jesus. But yet you have some of those same people, they'll give themselves Hebrew names, but then still call the Messiah Jesus. And they know that this name can only, we're in 2018. This name can't go back as far as 1630. There wasn't even a J in the English language. Before that, it was Jesus. And we know that Zeus is the principal pagan god. They know this. There are Hebrew organizations that say, yeah, we know that, but Jesus is the name that the people know. In other words, you make more money by using that false name. Go ahead.
Johanan chapter 1 and verse 13. Which were born not of blood, nor of the will of the flesh, nor of the will of man, but of Elohim. And the Word was made flesh, and dwelt among us, and we beheld his glory, the glory as of the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth. Johanan bare witness of him, and cried, saying, This was he of whom I spake. He that comes after me is preferred before me, for he was before me. And of his fullness have all we received, and grace for grace. For the law was given by Moshe, but grace and truth came by Yahshua the Mashiach.
And if people take that out of context, the grace that Yahshua brought was that we no longer have to kill an animal every time we sin. This is that thing where this law of grace have made me free from the law of sin and death. The law of sin and death is whenever sin was committed, something had to die, meaning that we had to sacrifice some kind of animal. We are now free from the law of sin and death. Sin, then something got to die. Sin, then something got to die. Sin, then something have to die. That's the law of sin and death. We are no longer under that because we have a perfect sacrifice that was made. But see, they'll take this out of context and now they free to do whatever it is they want to do. And that's not what this is talking about. Go ahead.
Verse 18. No man has seen Elohim at any time. The only begotten Son, which is in the bosom of the Father, he has declared him. And this is the record of Johanan, when the Yehudis sent priests and Levites from Jerusalem to ask him, Who are you? And he confessed, and denied not, but confessed, I am not the Mashiach.
Right. This is what somebody even going after righteousness, they're not going to proclaim that there's something, even when they are. There are certain things that he didn't even understand about his own charge because he was just doing his job. You have people out here proclaiming that they are Christ, that they're this, they're that. This is why it says, don't believe them. Go ahead.
And they asked him, What then? Are you Elias? And he says, I am not.
He said, I am not Elias. Yahshua said he was. He just did his job. He didn't worry about who he was. Go ahead.
Are you that prophet? And he answered, No. Then said they unto him, Who are you, that we may give an answer to them that sent us? What saith you of yourself? He said, I am the voice of one crying in the wilderness, Make straight the way of the Adonai, as said the prophet Esaias. And they which were sent were of the Pharisees. And they asked him, and said unto him, Why baptize you then, if you be not that Mashiach, nor Elias, neither that prophet?
Right. So if you baptizing, then you must be Christ or Elias or that prophet. The brother told us he was going all over the country just baptizing people. He just go from state to state. He just go places. Go ahead.
Yohanan answered them, saying, I baptize with water, but there stands one among you, whom you know not. He it is, who coming after me is preferred before me, whose shoes latchet I am not worthy to unloose. These things were done in Beth Arbara, beyond Jordan, where Yohanan was baptizing.
All right. Let's go to Luke chapter 21. Luke chapter 21, and let's read verses 5 through 28.
Verse 5. And as some spake of the temple, how it was adorned with goodly stones and gifts, he said, As for these things which you behold, the days will come, in the which there shall not be left one stone upon another, it shall not be thrown down.
Right, but what the people do is people make a pilgrimage to go to Israel, and they say, well, we're going to go and pray at the Wailing Wall, because that's what the Jewish people do. And they said, well, this is the last remaining wall of the temple. And for that to be true, then the Messiah would have to be a lie. And we know when we do that research that that was a part of that fort. That was not a part of the temple. But that don't stop people from going over there, slamming their head up against the wall, saying that they giving some kind of holy prayer. But see, you make a lot of money by doing that kind of stuff too. There's a whole lot of money spent doing that. This is why the people would go and proclaim certain sites to be holy sites. You understand what kind of money you're going to make out of that? Proclaim this to be a holy site. Now everybody comes and pays money just to stand there. It's like an amusement park with no amusements. They just pay you to stand there. Now, if you went to Six Flags and they didn't have no rides, you'd be pissed off. I just paid down $30 and I'm just going to stand here. But if you can tell the people, well, this is the place where the Messiah stood. Now they'll pay $50 with no attractions, just standing there. So it's financial gain in declaring certain spots to be holy places. Go ahead.
Verse 7. And they asked him, saying, Master, but when shall these things be? And what sign shall there be when these things shall come to pass? And he said, Take heed that you be not deceived, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am the anointed one. And the time draws near. Go you not therefore after them. But when you shall hear of wars and commotions, be not terrified, for these things must first come to pass, but the end is not by and by. Then said he unto them, Nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom.
And these things have been happening for quite some time. Go ahead.
And great earthquakes shall be in divers places, and famines and pestilence, and fearful sights and great signs shall there be from heaven. But before all these, they shall lay their hands on you, and persecute you, delivering you up to the synagogues and into prisons, being brought before kings and rulers for my name's sake. And it shall turn to you for a testimony.
All of these things that have happened to us will turn to us as a testimony. Now, we don't consider that while we're going through it, but all of these things that the nations have done unto us is a testimony against them, and they don't even know it. Go ahead.
Verse 14. Settle it therefore in your hearts, not to meditate before what you shall answer, for I'll give you a mouth and wisdom, which all your adversaries shall not be able to gainsay nor resist. And you shall be betrayed both by parents and brethren and kinfolks and friends. And some of you shall they cause to be put to death.
Right. Once they pass this, set up this thing of slavery, if one of the children was trying to run away, the mama or the daddy tell on him, Master, I'm trying to let you know my boy planning on running. Because now they done made him feel bad about the whole family. Now the whole family gonna suffer if you run away. They pass laws, what was that, in South Carolina, that every white American had to be a slave catcher. If anybody ran away, it was your job to go and catch them. And to threaten some of the men, if anybody had ran away, when they was caught, they was castrated. Go ahead, bro.
And you shall be hated of all men for my name's sake, but there shall not an hair of your head perish.
This is why every time we start talking about slavery and the things that we went through, the Holocaust got to keep coming up. Because they're like, people starting to hear about the troubles that they went through. Because they can't find any of the troubles that they've gone through in this book. The Holocaust ain't in here. But slavery is. This yoke of iron, your kids being sold off, your kids being dying and being taken from your very eyes, sold for trinkets, all of the things that we have gone through, it's in this book. The Holocaust is not. So every time we get to talking about us, this thing of the Holocaust have to keep coming up. And it happens every year and nobody notices it. But if you're in control of the media, then you know how to balance that out. For every 3 programs that they put out about black people, make sure there's 3 more programs about Jewish. Go ahead.
In your patience possess you your souls. And when you shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is near.
Now, we look at this in one way, not understanding that there are long periods of time in between some of these things. When it's talking about, and when you shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, know that the desolation thereof is near. Understand, that happened in 70 AD. Go ahead.
Then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains.
This is the one thing that the brothers who in Israel keep saying. Well, we know when certain things happen, we're going to flee in the mountains. Man, that was 70 AD. The children of Israel is supposed to be sanctified in the wilderness. So you got brothers now that's talking about, well, we're going to be in Israel, and then when the destruction comes, we're going to run to the mountain. What you got to figure out is how the hell you going to get to the wilderness where everybody else at. Go ahead.
And let them which are in the midst of it depart out. And let not them that are in the countries enter thereinto. For these be the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled. But woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck, in those days. For there shall be great distress in the land, and wrath on this people. And they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captive into all nations.
This has already happened. In 70 AD, they came to Jerusalem, killed 1.2 million of the tribe of Yehuda. The rest was sent to go and work in the salt mines, to go run down into Africa. The others they shipped off into Europe and used us as sport in the games. So when you see the movie Gladiator, understand why you're seeing all of those people fighting to the death. This is what the modern day football game is. When they say the lions against the bears, no, it was really those captives fighting lions to the death, and fighting bears to the death, and fighting each other to the death. This was their Roman games. So it's no doubt that people say, man, football is violent. These people are are suffering these concussions and they end up turning crazy, and NFL been knowing that. But their game is rooted in death. So you telling me that, you got some ailments when you get older, according to the original game, you were supposed to die anyway. Go ahead.
And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles until the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled.
Right. So, the Euro Gentiles being in Jerusalem is supposed to happen, and it's supposed to happen until their time of rulership is come to an end. So when people tell you that the true Jews have returned to the land, then even Pharaoh, who came here last week, said it's about to be the Jubilee. I said, well, how you count the Jubilee? He said, from the time that Israel was made a nation. I said, man, come on, bro. So we gonna count from the time that the imposter stole our land, and then we gonna count 50 years and say that that's supposed to be the Jubilee? I said, bro, them numbers don't add up. And how you just jump out of nowhere and make that account? Who you know makes a anniversary at the day their stuff was stolen? You ever seen a party when somebody, yeah, man, today we're gonna celebrate the day, man, they stole my car. It was sitting right here. We're gonna have a party. This is my stolen car day right here. What? Who in the hell celebrates that? But this is what that's supposed to be, and we're supposed to leave and go directly into this land after this brother goes over and make peace between the Middle East and the Jews and the other the Muslims. He gonna do that himself. The Egyptian brother who was here last week. Now the brother had on the Egyptian hat, right? Then when I sent him out of here, the Egyptian hat came off and he had a yarmulke under that. I said, well, I'll be damned. He done transformed right before our eyes. Had his little shofar ready. The wrong one, of course. And I sat there and I said something in front of the brothers. I was going to see if anybody was going to say something. I said, so what shofar you use again? I said, is it the long one? He said, yeah. I just sat back. I just looked at the brothers to see if they were going to say something. I ain't said a thing. I waited. Later on, I said something. But I waited to see if anybody was going to say anything. And people were saying they were hearing noises. The brother blew the shofar before he came in here. And once I sent them out of here, he blew it again. But he came out his clothes before he blew it the second time. That's why we saw a damn Pharaoh turned into a Jew. So he took the Pharaoh hat off and he had a yarmulke on under that. I said, what in the world? Then he pulled out the kadu, which is the long horn, and started blowing it. Man, even in the doggone movie, they blew the right shofar in the doggone Black Panther movie. And we got folk claiming that they Israelites blowing the wrong damn shofar. Now, Hollywood can get it right and y'all can't? You ought to be ashamed of yourself. One of the other brothers had noticed and said when one of the brothers showed up in the museum, he had fringes on. But guess what? He had his fringes on the same way we wear ours. He didn't look like no damn lampshade all the way around the bottom of the clothes. Now, how the hell Hollywood get it right and we can't? You got to ask yourself, though. They film most of that stuff in Atlanta. Who the hell are they looking at to figure out where the fringes go right? And what horn? Because ain't no damn body else putting no stuff out saying which horn to blow and how to wear fringes. Because all these dudes look like lampshades walking around here. All them blowing the wrong shofar. How they getting that information? More people watching you than you know of. Go ahead, bro.
Verse 25. And there shall be signs in the sun, and in the moon, and in the stars, and upon the earth distress of nations, with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring, men's hearts failing them for fear, and for looking after those things which are coming on the earth. For the powers of the heaven shall be shaken, and then shall they see the Son of Man coming in the clouds.
Hold on. I had to stop the brother. Brother was talking to a brother over there. He was saying, Brother said his eyesight was awesome. And he said, yeah, man, see, people don't know the power of the sun. See, you just go right out. But now already laughing. The brother said, people don't often just go outside and look directly at the sun. I said, man, you niggas gonna go blind. You go outside and look directly at the sun. I said, man, come on, man. Let's take this outside. Let's go. At least I have a bunch of blind people next week. It says I can't even see the book. Did y'all go out there and stare at the sun, listen to this dude? See, when them heresies come, somebody got to step in. You don't just keep letting somebody spread heresy. That dude said go out there and stare at the sun. Every last one of y'all gonna be blind. Read, man.
Verse 26. Men's hearts failing them for fear and for looking after those things which are coming on the earth. For the powers of heaven shall be shaken. And then shall they see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. And when these things begin to come to pass, then look up and lift up your heads, for your redemption draws near.
Your redemption draws near. Let's go to Revelation chapter 12. I think you learn that when you look. Don't be staring at the sun. You're going to start seeing blue stuff. You're going to start seeing Lucky Charm, blue clovers, orange horseshoes, yellow diamonds. You're going to see everything in a minute. You keep staring at that if you want to. Revelation chapter 12, and let's read verses 5 through 17.
And she brought forth a man-child who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron. And her child was caught up unto Elohim.
So, Yeshua was sacrificed, went to go into heaven to anoint the altar. He has now fulfilled his work on the earth. Go ahead.
And to his throne. And the woman fled into the wilderness.
Now, there's an enormous amount of time in between verse 5 and verse 6. And the woman fled into the wilderness. The brother said, we was already in the wilderness. I said, bro, we were in the wilderness. We've been in the wilderness about 400 years then. I said, that don't add up with what's written in the book. Go ahead.
That's what he said. He was going to go over there and make peace, and then we were going to come on over.
Yeah, we're going to go. Yeah, he going before us. He gonna make peace. He going to cause them to knock down the Muslim holy site so that they can build a temple on that. He going to do that. Yeah, they're going to knock down the Dome of the Rock. I said, well, I'm glad I ain't going to be there when you do that, because that's going to get ugly. But you go right ahead. I'm going to be right here. You go right ahead. Go ahead.
Where she has a place prepared of Elohim, that they should feed her there 1,260 days.
3.5 years. Go ahead. But he said that ain't happening. See, the third Elijah said that ain't going to happen. He's like, he was Moshe and Elijah mixed together. He Moshe liar. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead, bro.
And there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels, and prevailed not. Neither was their place found any more in heaven. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceives the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. And I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now is come salvation and strength, and the kingdom of our Elohim, and the power of his anointed one. For the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our Elohim day and night. And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb, and by the word of their testimony, and they loved not their lives unto the death. Therefore rejoice, you heavens, and you that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you having great anger, because he knows that he has but a short time.
Right, and he has indignation against a certain group of people more than anybody else. And he will use all the rest of the people on the earth to get at these certain groups of people. Go ahead.
And when the dragon saw that he was cast onto the earth, he persecuted the woman which brought forth the man-child.
The woman that brought forth the man-child is Israel, and more specifically, Judah. See, it ain't just Israel. No. specifically who he has problems with. The woman in general. But Judah is the specific part of that family that he got issue with. Go ahead.
And to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, into her place where she is nourished for a time and times and half a time from the face of the serpent.
Same thing that was written before. Go ahead.
And the serpent cast out of his mouth water as a flood after the woman, that he might cause her to be carried away of the flood.
Right. It says you have you're gonna leave the same way you came by the ships of Tarshish, the long distance ships, and the adversary, the devil, is gonna try to flood us as we get out of here. Go ahead.
And the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened her mouth and swallowed up the flood which the dragon cast out of his mouth. And the dragon was angry with the woman and went to make war with the remnant of her seed.
Right. Now, he's making war with the remnant of her seed. Go ahead.
Which keep the commandments of Elohim and have the testimony of Yahshua the Mashiach.
So those who keep the commandments of Elohim are those that have the testimony of Yahshua the Mashiach. Yeah, you have televangelists that's telling you that it's Satan that's trying to get you to keep the law. So Satan has then sent his ministers out to go ahead and get his people on his side. Because the people who he is going to deal with is the remnant of those that keep the commandment. So the adversary said, look, if I can go ahead and convince them early not to keep the commandment, guess what that means? That means the less people he has to fight. So he's got to talk you off your strength. See, if I can talk you off your strength, then the battle is won before the battle even began. This is why they play the mind games when they fight. Or before a team go against another team. They try to get in the other team's head. Because if you can get in the other person's head and make them feel inferior about who they are and this battle that they have, you already one step closer to winning. Because they done lost in their head. Did you finish that, bro?
Yes.
Let's go to 2 Timothy chapter 2. Second Timothy chapter 2 and verse 14 through 26.
Of these things put them in remembrance, charging them before the Adonai that they strive not about words to no profit, but to the subverting of the hearers. Study to show yourself approved unto Elohim, a workman that needs not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth.
And if I'm going to study to show myself approved, I will, not make a claim that I got this whole book in my head, so I don't need to bring my book. So when somebody show up an hour late, now they in full, it had to take a while to put on that Egyptian getup. And you got a staff with it, you know what I'm saying? So you got a staff, you got your little candy cane hat, you got all this, but you don't have a Bible. Why would you come to Holy Convocation without, and then don't need no Bible? I think brother tried to give him a Bible. Oh, he got it up here. But then want to borrow somebody else's Bible to read. No, man. Your Bible, this your sword. You don't let nobody borrow your sword. At least you get killed with your own sword. No, man, you can't borrow my sword. You gotta get your own. Go ahead.
But shun profane and vain babblings, for they will increase unto more ungodliness.
Right. If we are going to shun it, we are going to shut that down. See? There's some things that we have to deal with then. Go ahead.
And their word will eat as does a canker, of whom is Hymenaeus and Philetus, who concerning the truth have erred, saying that the resurrection is past already, and overthrow the faith of some.
Right. This is why you have to be careful how you hear what you hear. Because you listen to the wrong people and they end up overthrowing your faith because they have then said some other things and you take that thing to heart. And you have people that will learn from anywhere. They'll go on any site and listen to anybody. And before you know it, they up in here spouting out some old crazy mess that they done heard. I don't care what websites you go on. I don't tell people who to listen to or anything. Just leave it at home on your computer. Don't bring it in here. Go ahead.
Nevertheless, the foundation of Elohim stands sure, having this seal. The Adonai knows them that are his. And let everyone that names the name of the Mashiach depart from lawlessness. But in a great house there are not only vessels of gold and of silver, but also of wood and of earth, and some to honor and some to dishonor.
Right. A house don't just have all honorable vessels. It's got to have some dishonorable vessels as well. See, Yahweh allowed them dishonorable vessels because them vessels make you stronger. So he'll let those who want to attain unto their salvation, he'll let them come. And he'll let the ones who ain't going to do nothing but give you hell and let crap spout out of their mouth the whole time, he'll let them come too. Why? Because that's going to make you stronger. That's going to be your spiritual workout. Go ahead.
If a man therefore purge himself from these, he shall be a vessel unto honor, sanctified, and meet for the master's use, and prepared unto every good work. Flee also youthful lusts, but follow righteousness, faith, love, peace, with them that call on the Adonai out of a pure heart. But foolish and unlearned questions avoid, knowing that they do gender strifes. And the servant of the Adonai must not strive, but be gentle unto all men, apt to teach, patient.
Foolish and unlearned questions avoid, knowing that they do gender strifes. This is why at some point you have to shut some stuff down. Go ahead.
In meekness instructing those that oppose themselves, if Elohim peradventure will give them repentance to the acknowledging of the truth, and that they may cover themselves out of the snare of the devil. Verse 26, and that they may recover themselves out of the snare of the devil, who are taken captive by him at his will.
They are taken captive because they entertain that doctrine. Now, if we look at this definition of babblings, it is kenophonia. It's a Greek word, G2757, which is fruitless discussion. It says, verse 16, but shun, that is, do away with profane and vain babblings, for they will increase unto more ungodliness. So it ain't but so long that you're supposed to entertain this mess. That's why the sister came back in my office and said, hey, you need to get out there. That's another doctrine being taught out there. See, them vain babblings are going to increase unto some more mess. Let's go to Galatians chapter 2. Galatians chapter 2, and let's read verses 11 through 14.
But when Cephas was come to Antioch, I withstood him to the face, because he was to be blamed.
Understand, Cephas is the rock on which the church was formed. All right? This man has the authority. Yet, he's saying, I withstood him to the face. Go ahead.
For before that certain came from Jacob, he did eat with the Gentiles. But when they were come, he withdrew and separated himself, fearing them which were of the circumcision.
Right. Having a little movable face here. So I deal with the Gentiles as long as the other people of Israel are not around. Then when the other people of Israel come, he withdraw himself from the Gentiles, fearing how the Jews gonna act. And then that ends up affecting other people, because then they back up from the Gentiles. And Yahweh like, no. This door was open unto them. And then this is Saul's job. So then the way that you are then acting is now affecting this man's job. Go ahead.
And the other Yehudis disassembled likewise with him, insomuch that Barnabas was also carried away with their dissimulation.
Now, other people who's supposed to be working are now carried away watching if this the rock on which the church was formed. And now he don't want to deal with the Gentiles. Now, it's not that he don't want to deal with them. He doesn't know how to deal with them in the presence of his people. And to Saul, hey man, this look like hypocrisy. So you gonna deal with them when it's just us? But then once these other people come in, now you want to step to the side? There's something wrong with that. Go ahead.
But when I saw that they walked not uprightly according to the truth of the gospel, I said unto Cephas before them all, if you, being a Yehudi, live after the manner of Gentiles,
Which means he doesn't do any animal sacrifice. Go ahead.
and not as do the Yehudis, why compel you the Gentiles to live as do the Yehudis?
Right. It is hypocrisy, and he had to call it out no matter who it is that did it, because it is then affecting this brother's work. And you can't have a charge and not deal with the things that goes against that charge that you were given. But let us hear the conclusion of this matter. Let's go to Exodus chapter 11. Exodus chapter 11, and let's read verses 1 through 7.
Verse 1. And Yahweh said unto Moshe, yet will I bring one more plague upon Pharaoh and upon Egypt. Afterwards he will let you go hence. When he shall let you go, he shall surely thrust you out hence altogether. Speak now in the ears of the people, and let every man borrow of his neighbor, and every woman of her neighbor, jewels of silver and jewels of gold.
Right, as it is written, the children of Israel are going to come out with great substance. So we have this same thing that is prophesied for us when leaving out of here. But they're going to go through all of these things, but they're going to come out with great substance. Now, this money that they got ain't worth the paper that it's printed on. So we can't be leaving out of here with a bunch of these debt notes. Them in them with a bunch of IOUs. So you gonna go out here, people, you trying to get money and tell me I got 10 million IOUs. Brother, you just as broke as ever. You better get that mess out of here. Only thing that good is, look, when we get cold, we can set it on fire and we can burn it. That's about the only thing you gonna do outside of here, especially once they fully take this economy down. Them dollars ain't gonna be worth nothing. So if we know anything, give us something that can be traded. Give us gold and silver. You can keep them dollars. Because they ain't worth nothing here. They sure ain't gonna be worth nothing when we get out of here. Go ahead.
Verse 3. And Yahweh gave the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians. Moreover, the man Moshe was very great in the land of Egypt, in the sight of Pharaoh's servants, and in the sight of the people. And Moshe said, thus said Yahweh, about midnight will I go out into the midst of Egypt, and all the firstborn in the land of Egypt shall die, from the firstborn of Pharaoh that sits upon his throne, even unto the firstborn of the maidservant that is behind the mill, and all the firstborn of beasts.
Right. And if you're going to understand what the purpose of that is and why Yahweh is doing that, Israel was named after his firstborn son, Israel. He says, when he said to Pharaoh, let my son go. Let even my firstborn, Israel. So what did he do? Take away Egypt's firstborn. Go ahead.
And there shall be a great cry throughout all the land of Egypt, such as there was none like it, nor shall be like it any more. But against any of the children of Israel shall not a dog move his tongue, against man or beast, that you may know how that Yahweh does put a difference between the Egyptians and Israel.
So if Yahweh put a difference between an Egyptian and an Israelite, how we gonna show up being both? An Egyptian on the outside, take that off and turn into, and didn't even turn into an Israelite. It turned into a Jewish because that little yarmulke was barely sitting on the back of that head back there. Now, how we gonna be both of those in the same breath? And Yahweh said, I'm gonna make a difference. I'm gonna show you how I do make a difference between the Egyptians and Israel. So we have to. That's just a little small spiritual exercise, because believe you me, things are gonna get much worse than that and much more confusing than that as we get further and further down in this word, because people are going to make great claims. I was there when my elder passed, and the next dude start coming that came up behind him and start making all of these strange claims, and I'm telling you, it was confusing. The dude start twisting words and doing all kinds of things, and you had to just back up for a second, because the more you listen to it, the more twisted it became. This is how people who had been in the word 10, 15 years were still turned upside down with that word. So don't fool yourself and believe, well, I've been in the word so long, that ain't gonna happen to me. Nah, it's something altogether different when it goes down. Trust me. So let us hear, listen, and take these things to heart, because the adversary, the devil, is serious about us being his sworn enemies. So he's coming at us with all he has got, and this ain't no regular man that we about to fight against. So get yourselves together, Israel. That's all that we're going to do for today. Remember the Sabbath to keep it holy. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.